Hello, Geekbeard here again. Today I thought we would do something slightly different from yesterday. If you haven't seen it, yesterday's video we explored some creative writing I did about essentially a creation story of the universe itself, or some universe. Could be a different universe entirely. Today, and that was written nearly 2 years ago. Today we're going to fast forward and read some of my writings from last week. But this is not creative writing so much, it's more just my personal diary, which I write at work mostly when I have downtime, which is quite a lot. But I get very philosophical, so I think you'll find it interesting. And I will try to expand on what I was trying to say, because it's not always obvious unless you're me and you pretty much know what kind of mental state I was in when I wrote it, and therefore exactly what it means. That's one of the unique things about going over your own writing, as I talked a little bit about yesterday. But that's the formula for these videos, and I think it will be successful. So without further ado, let's plunge in, and I can give some more context as we go if necessary. So this is from 16th of November. You are incomplete. I've been telling myself a lot this morning. Felt kind of good. You are incomplete. I'll keep reading because it will help to explain what that means. Even had some slight camera mode, feeling like what I was seeing was being piped to much higher places. Have you ever had that feeling? You know, almost when your vision seems to contract slightly, and it's like it's a camera. You feel like you are a camera, and you're actually connected to some system that's higher than you and above you. It doesn't happen to me very often, but I believe it's real. We're all connected to higher things in unknown ways that current science can't explain. But I think we'll know more about that in the future. Let's continue. Of course, it mostly comes from, quote, solids are incomplete. The solids that compose you unintuitively are incomplete. So that is unintuitive, isn't it? When you think of something solid, like a cup, it's actually incomplete. Everything is incomplete at a quantum level. Even though, you know, it's a cup, what's incomplete about it? It does what it's meant to do. It picks up, it holds fluids, and you pick it up and you drink them. But actually, it's incomplete. When I was learning quantum mechanics, something triggered this belief a little bit. I think it was they were trying to derive the band gap structure of a conductor, which is the famous kind of quantum explanation for why conductors conduct electricity. And it's quite interesting. It's called the band gap. Anyway, in constructing this conductor and deriving this band gap wave function, they firstly had to assume that the conductor had cyclic boundary conditions. And it struck me as a little bit weird to be able to assume something like that. Something with cyclic boundary conditions is fundamentally different from the finite real things we use on a day-to-day basis. On the other hand, it was a very large cyclicity, a very large cycle, so maybe you can argue that the effect of that is minimal. And I'm sure that's what they would argue, and maybe they're right. But I still believe that solids are incomplete. And we're going to get there. We're going to explain that in more detail as we go. Because this is one of my current beliefs. As we go through these files, you see that I have a lot of different beliefs that I explored, but somewhat rejected ultimately. I'm just going to adjust the phone here a little bit because it's not. Okay, that's probably better. Okay, let's continue. I'll just repeat. Of course, it mostly comes from solids are incomplete. The solids that compose you, unintuitively, are incomplete. The top of your head is practically open. A tendril connects you all the way to the Ein Sof / intelligent infinity / the black mirror at the edge of the universe. Have you heard of any of those terms before? Ein Sof is a term from Kabbalah. I'm not 100% sure what it means, but they envision the universe as composed of layers, or at least 4 or so layers, and the Ein Sof, I think, is the outermost layer. And they say that your soul is literally a tendril kind of thing that connects you all the way to the Ein Sof, the outermost layer, which is pure light or something like that. Sounds very similar to the phrase intelligent infinity, which is what the law of one people use quite frequently. I don't know if you've heard of the law of one, but that's quite interesting too. And I've read, I think, about 60% of the law of one. I think I've read 3 books. It's kind of hard going. I don't know whether I really followed most of it, but recommend checking it out or checking out some of the videos about it. It's interesting. They're the ones that have like the densities of consciousness, and we're currently on 3rd density and progressing towards 4th density. And the rays, the colored rays, which represent those densities as well. The chakras are kind of not something they talk about too much, but it's the same kind of thing. Anyway, maybe I'll even make a video about that at some point. Let's continue. The black mirror at the edge of the universe. That was one of my own ideas. I just kind of saw a vision of a black mirror being the edge of the universe and our soul being connected to it, and basically the projection of ourselves upon that black mirror was like smoke. So, you know, down here you're physical, but all the way up there you're just smoke. And everything you are and everything you do is just a smoky kind of hazy kind of projection. I'll continue. In my head, I tell everything around me, did you know you are complete? Sorry, you are incomplete also. Yeah, I'm a big introvert and inward talker, which is probably not a good thing. I'm probably not a good phrase, inward talker. I think that's meant to be pretty pejorative. But I have to admit to it. I mean, here I am talking to you, which I get to actually talk, whereas 90% of the time during your day, you have to just shut up and do whatever you're meant to be doing, right? Talking to people isn't easy for me anyway. I kind of hate small talk. I'm terrible at it. I hate trying to just talk for the sake of talking. But that's part of why I'm doing this. I like talking about serious things and deep concepts. But it's almost impossible to get to that level with somebody you meet in everyday life. So hopefully I'll meet some people that do enjoy that. Well, okay, so a bit of a break now. Well, done sorting strangely. 10 minutes to burn till read. Sorting is my mail sorting. I work in a mail room. And this is sort of a diary of my day, so I will talk about what I'm doing from time to time. And epicness on the way back, getting a screen protector for my phone, getting some Dobinsons for lunch and morning tea. I don't know if you get Dobinsons. I think it's a bakery, probably just in where I live in Canberra, Australia. Maybe I doubt they're interstate even. But they're okay. Their coffee is a tiny bit weaker than I would like it to be. But I often get a custard tart from them. That's not bad. And their spinach and feta triangle is really nice. Really good. I'm already looking forward to the next one I get. Which will be a while because I'm going to have lunches. But anyway, whatever. I had one for lunch back then. That was last Thursday, so I had one for lunch. And the amount of salt in the feta, I love salt personally. I know nutritionists would probably say it's terrible for you, but I don't believe that. Quality salt is good for you anyway. Unfortunately, we use a lot of refined salt these days. Well, that was good. Got the screen protector, only $30 cleaned and fitted. I was pleased, although he did say there's supposed to be one in the box. So I just got a new phone recently, which is what I'm using to record this. Motorola G53, if anyone's interested. So yes, last Thursday I went and grabbed a screen protector for it, and he fitted it for me, which was nice. And he looked like he did a good job. He wiped it off with the liquidy stuff, and then he used the protector to scrape it to get all the liquid off before he glued it on. So I think he did a good job. What do you guys think? Are screen protectors really necessary? I think they only protect against scratches. They don't do a whole lot against anything else like smudging and stuff. So, and then if it did get scratched, how would you get it off and replace it? Maybe they have some secret way of doing that, some chemicals to unglue it and remove it. I'd be interested to know. Also found a new coffee option on my way through. Cherry beans. Better than Glass House or Dobinson's, but not perfect. I work in Tuggeranong, if anyone cares. You probably don't know where that is, but that's fine. But not perfect. I actually like Triple C coffee the most, which is the building I work in. Maybe I'm weird, but at least this one is strong, unlike Dobinson's, and has minimal aftertaste. Yeah, I'll go grab one of those from Cherry Beans again sometime. I always go for a large coffee, 3 shots. Just doesn't seem much point going less than that to me. If I buy something to eat with it, I can never... If I buy something to eat and I get a medium coffee, I never find that the coffee is quite enough to wash down what I'm eating. So that annoys me. Okay, break. Been uttering the internal phrase quite a lot. Is it making me feel better just by distracting me? Yeah, well, this is something I do quite a lot. I come up with a philosophy or an idea or a concept about how to think or how to be in the world. And then I kind of lodge that into part of a fairly high level part of my mind. And then as I go about my day, that concept, I kind of come back to it a lot, come back to it quite frequently, or maybe it distracts me and forcibly inserts itself into my conscience. Who knows? I'm not entirely sure which way it goes, but it probably goes both ways. Do you guys do that? Do you guys try to theorize about the nature of things and then come up with an actual theory, concept, idea, whatever, and then have that come back to you frequently throughout the days or week? A lot of my concepts rarely last much longer than a week in that kind of mode of constantly distracting me. Yeah, it's just the nature of the self, the nature of the mind to get bored with things very quickly somehow. But once I write my ideas down and I develop them a little bit, I do read them again at a later date. I reread my writings quite frequently. So these ideas come back. Sometimes that's not always good to overemphasize them and try to overuse them, because you'll just get frustrated if it's actually uninteresting. If you have to respect your mind's will to find things that are different and changing and interesting. I don't know, we're very our minds are very promiscuous, for lack of a better word. They're not faithful to one system or idea. They just want new stuff all the time. I think that's the nature of the mind. So it's really annoying when you're the kind of person that wants to come up with rules and like systems and structures and philosophies that actually possibly control reality, or your life at least, or your own mind. Because then your mind, you think about it for a while, and then your mind says, okay, I'm bored with that, I'm moving on. And you have to kind of think up slightly new stuff. That's a big part of what we are. And the universe itself has decreed as such, because we always have to keep evolving. We're never good enough. What does it mean in this grand scheme of things to evolve constantly towards what and why? But it's happening. Why is change the rule? Why do we constantly have to change? Even if I have a good day at work and I have a good day in terms of my writings and my ideas, and I know it's going to end. The good mood and the good feels are going to come to an end. You're going to have to go back to work the next day or the next week or the next month, and you're just going to have to grind. And the time itself almost is just going to kind of grind you down and make you feel miserable again for no good reason other than that's what time does, and that's what the mind does, because the mind can never be satisfied. Nor can the universe, apparently, because our minds and our evolving bodies are part of the universe. Anyway, we'll have plenty of opportunity to return to that kind of discussion. I'll slightly repeat. Been uttering the internal phrase quite a lot. In other words, I am incomplete. You are incomplete. All solids are incomplete. Is it making me feel better just by distracting me? I rarely say, I am incomplete. Does this indicate that my mind sees itself as separate from my body? Yet, my mind/soul is surely also incomplete, at least as visualized as contained within my body. And we don't exactly imagine that there could be anything out there capable of completing them. God would be the least such thing, if we could believe in it. I complete you, says a floating, glowing, white-bearded guy in the sky with glowing eyes. God, I presume? Well, now we really get into it, don't we? God. That's a big word. It's a very short word, but it's a big word. When I wrote this down and when I started to think about it, I realized I believe in God. Now, this is a way I can believe in God. God is that which completes you. God is that which completes the cup you're holding. God is that which completes your chair or your desk. God is that which completes all other people. God is that which completes your house. God is that which completes the earth. Because every single one of those things is incomplete. But maybe it makes more sense for them to just be incomplete. What need do we have for this God concept? Well, God is precisely that, a concept. We've kind of constructed him here as the most intrinsically contradictory of things, that which completes things that are incomplete and which cannot really be completed. So he's a paradox, a contradiction almost. Now clearly he doesn't complete things physically. Clearly he's up in the sky, up in space, in some non-physical kind of realm. Maybe a kind of gaseous or vacuum kind of realm. That's how I see him anyway. because that, the vacuum, the great emptiness, represents incompleteness. Wait, did I just say that? Yeah, it sort of does. But maybe also completeness. If you could take the entire universe, the totality of all that vacuum and so on, then finally you would get to something complete, a complete universe. But God isn't complete. He is that which completes us. So without us, he isn't complete. And even so, I don't think physically we can be complete. Physically, our completion is the process of desiring new things, desiring food to eat, desiring love and partners, desiring success, social success, material things and money, so that we can get those things. And we go on through our lives, and we will go on through our lives eternally desiring those things. God can't necessarily provide them. God can only provide spiritual things. So he completes us spiritually. But physically we're going to go on wanting and desiring things. That's inevitable. Anyway, that's what I believe God is, to the degree that that's anything at all. God is basically the vacuum slash the sky slash the gaseous regions of the universe, and that completes the solid regions. And when I think about these solids, even things that are around you that are inanimate, like blocks of wood or stone, those are incomplete. And I visualize kind of fields of energy kind of bursting out of the corners of these things. That's their incompleteness. That's their quantum incompleteness, which only God can satisfy. Maybe a rock, maybe a piece of block of wood has a spirit or a soul. Well, not a soul, but a spiritual energy of some kind as well. And so it needs spiritual energy of God to complete it. But you look at humans and we're clearly incomplete. We're constantly striving and evolving. A block of wood isn't doing that, and yet it is incomplete also. That's kind of mysterious, I think. And that philosophy, for that reason, the philosophy is extremely interesting to me. Okay, so we'll kind of cut away from that stuff for a little bit and go into some more daily kind of affairs. Being here is frustrating, swarm simming, but it's probably only making things worse. Or is it this coffee? Too strong, perhaps? So yeah, at work I was playing a game called Swarm Sim, which is a really cool idle game. Don't know if you guys would have ever played it or heard of it. You might not like it. It's sort of like just doing maths and buying things and collecting things to build your swarm of insects that produce other insects, and it's alien insects. It's cool, but it starts to feel like work after a while. Still, if you like idle games, you should definitely have played Swarm Sim at some point in your life, because it is one of the definitively awesome idle games that I've ever played. Break. A while ago, I did a wee bit of maths about Fox Dungeon, but I wimped out on anything too hard. bracket, in other words, involving probability, lol, bracket, such as computing the chance of beating an enemy. Fox Dungeon is a game that I made. It's also pretty much an idle game, and it's based on a game called Immortal Hero Idol. I think that's what it's called. But Immortal Hero makes you go through this long kind of lead-in phase where you have to unlock a whole lot of talents, and you have to unlock levels, and you have to level up and stuff. And you have to reset quite frequently to gain new talent powers. And then after all that, you have to invest in unlocking this item system, which I thought was really cool. Like, you get these, and after you've unlocked it, you have a certain chance of dropping items from the monsters you're killing. It's an idle game, so you're sort of like just fighting a monster automatically. The item system is pretty cool. And the game sort of becomes exponential at that point, I want to say, but I guess in reality, I mean linear. Your progress in the game becomes linear at that point, because the normal progress that you're up against of the monsters is exponential, but the item progress is also exponential. So the game effectively becomes linear, because you're both progressing exponentially, and the monsters are becoming exponentially harder as you go up in level. So that becomes kind of weird that there's no tail off to that. So in my game, I just made an item-based game it's called Fox Dungeon officially, where as you progress, gradually the items become less and less frequently dropped, less and less common. So you have to spend more time to get items, basically. So the game your progress kind of tails off in that respect, and it's probably logarithmic progress. If I calculated everything correctly, it should be logarithmic progress, which is what a lot of idle games sort of use. Although normally you can reset. I didn't go to the bother of actually creating a system of resets in my game. Okay, let's continue. The thing is, I enjoy the numbers going up and down and doing basic computations in my head to compare them. Where's the joy in solving the game? And where's the joy in making the game more complex to the point that my mental computations become highly inadequate? Maybe there's a way to make games that can satisfy both somehow. That's life. Lol, doesn't really seem like it. But you see, being a maths guy is intrinsically weird. You enjoy doing computations, but then you can only really be a proper part of this intensely modern world by working out how to get computers to do your computations efficiently. You can't get any value out of doing them yourself, except troubleshooting computer programs, perhaps. But that sounds unpleasant. Not least because achieving success means no longer having any fun anymore. What a weird and often depressing world. Been thinking that in my game, it's rather strange how farming at higher levels doesn't increase your drop rate of items better than your current ones. It only increases the cap on the drops. On the other hand, this creates a situation in which you actually have to think/judge a reasonably low level to farm at efficiently. It would be perhaps less interesting if it was simply always optimal to farm at the highest level possible. Okay, so now I'm reading some older writings and I quote from them and then I discuss the quote. So 2211 underscore 14, which means 14th of November 2022. Quote, I want love is what you might try and reduce that to. But I would say I want passion. Passion that is capable of ruling me, saving me, protecting me from the immense chaoses that can potentially conspire to harm us greatly. End quote. And now I'm going to comment on that. What is the significance of passion in the greater universe? That's a hard one. We tend to imagine large civilizations being ruled by very dry systems like democracy. Break. But hey, we sure have our fair share of passion in our society. Only issue is my side of politics, the conservative, tends not to be the ones driven by passion as much. But maybe that's wrong. I mean, opposing the excesses of the panned requires some passion, perhaps. I just mentioned something I just said something you're not allowed to say on YouTube in this tech dystopia that we live in. Panned. I won't expand on that word. You probably can guess what it's short for. Let it hereby be acknowledged that this is a sacred document, protected by the power of the Fermat hexagon. Bind. Okay, another quote, 2211 underscore 14, same date. Quote, connection with godlike powers requires give and take, requires development, requires connection, which can never be purely one-directional. End quote. One-directionality waiting room. No, seriously, if it's impossible due to some cosmic principles, evolution ought to create circumstances that get increasingly close to it. I will discuss this one a bit further. One-directionality. Like from the quote, it said, connection with godlike powers requires give and take, requires connection, and connection is something which can never be purely one-directional. Even if somebody shoots you with a bullet from a gun, it's not just cause and effect. There's something traveling in the other direction as well, which is a crazy idea. Has anybody here seen the movie Tenet? Now that's a cool movie. If you want to think about the idea of things going in both directions. Because they shoot bullets in the movie, but they also shoot bullets backwards. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil too much more for you. But it's about sort of phenomena that travel backwards and time that sometimes travels backwards. It's pretty unique. You wouldn't really, I haven't heard of other kind of shows or movies that have really covered the same topic. And it's well made, it's well done. It's a Christopher Nolan film, so if you like him, definitely check it out. I've probably got about 5 more minutes, and then I have to get myself off and cook myself some dinner. But I'll continue. Well, actually, I wanted to continue discussing one-directionality. Do you believe that one-directionality is really possible in the cosmos? Cause and effect. Things happening after other things. Well, I don't disagree with the concept of time. So, as far as time is concerned, yes, I believe in one directional time. But everything else physical, everything else, and especially things that are beyond physical, surely are not one directional. Okay, I don't think I've got too much more to say about that right now. Quote, the cross, the cross, the cross. And I'll just say that if I quote something without listing the date, that's just a repeat of the previous date that I've already listed. The cross, the cross, the cross. So easy to see in the mind, less easy to see in the sky. Maybe they're not so far apart. But what color was it? And what were the rules at play? That part, not even I know. But I felt love. Or do. At the time, it was perhaps more like fear. An awareness that was unexpected and therefore logically unwelcome. Difficult to process. Difficult to accept. End quote. So this is a reference to an event during a time in my life which was leading up to my first psychotic episode. And yeah, I'm going to put that out there. Let it hereby be acknowledged that this is a sacred document protected by the power of the Fermat hexagon. Bind. Yeah, I've had psychotic episodes. Anyway, the cross was something I saw in the sky, and I took a photo of it. And it was like the sun peering down through some clouds. But somehow, when I looked at it, it had the shape of a cross, and when I took a photo, it was even more clear that there was this cross shape. I'm not going to talk too much more about what happened because, you know, the elements of cyberpsychosis that are involved. But we'll get there eventually. We'll discuss some of my psychotic episodes in a bit more detail. Why not? They are interesting. I kind of enjoyed them at the time. But in retrospect, I'm also conscious of the trouble and the issues that caused for people. So I'm conscious that I was acting out significantly. I've only had about 3 psychotic episodes, at least proper ones. And on 3 of those occasions, I was also incarcerated in a mental health unit. That's just how it goes. I complete you. That is what the god aliens are trying to say. Yet they would know better than us that that is a sacrilege. Because, of course, only God can complete us. And yet, how then can they offer to complete us? How can they offer to help us even? When All that there is completion. So they can offer us elements of completion. But to even do so is to doubt the power of God, or to question, or to minimize or reduce the power of God, because only God can complete us. Difficult situation for these advanced aliens, isn't it? And so far, it pretty much seems like they are happy to not engage with us at all. Much at all, anyway. That they have deemed that we have to evolve according to our own progress, in our own time, basically. They don't want to accelerate our evolution. Or maybe the reverse would be true. Maybe if they interfered, things would go backwards. Maybe bad things would happen. Certainly if they gave us technology, it could concentrate itself into the hands of not so good people. Currently the theory that a lot of people believe is that technology did, or has, been acquired by deep state, by deep government in many nations perhaps, but particularly the US. And that doesn't sound like a healthy situation. And of course this technology is mostly hypothesized to come from crashed UFOs. I certainly don't like the idea of the deep state possessing alien technology. So how then do they interact with us, knowing that it is somewhat sacrilegious / dangerous to unify with us to any degree? Well, they just do what they do. Some degrees of unification / connection are unavoidable. I'll just try to finish off this file. Early today, quote, "I rarely say I am incomplete. Does this indicate that my mind sees itself as separate from my body?" End quote. The mind / spirit / soul connects all the way up to the point that is the unification of everything / God. Or, as we talked about previously, the Ein Sof / intelligent infinity / black mirror at the edge of the universe on which our souls dance in the form of smoke. So, it is paradoxically both complete and incomplete. True. The mind / spirit / soul. Paradoxically both complete and incomplete. Because it connects all the way up to the point that is the unification of everything with God. That's more believable. The physical world will remain forever incomplete. Early-ish today, quote, "And where's the joy in making the game more complex to the point that my mental computations become highly inadequate? Maybe there's a way to make games that can satisfy both, somehow." End quote. Blockchain could involve comparable probability games, and that would probably motivate you to play well, surely. And that's the end of the file. Yeah, I'm a big fan of blockchain, although I'm not hugely invested in it, which is probably a mistake on my part. If you think blockchain idle games are a thing, or you've played any of them, I'd like to hear about that in the comments or through any other channel. If somebody could suggest me a good video about that, I'd be interested. Can you really make money playing games on a blockchain? Or make tokens anyway, get tokens. Some of them have that, they call it play to earn, but I haven't really tried to play too much of these things yet. Anyway, I'm a big fan of blockchain, and I do understand the technology at a pretty substantial level. So it won't come up too much in our writings, but it will. It's there in the background, and hopefully you guys get a chance to talk with me about it, because I want to become more involved in that ecosystem. Okay, that's the video for today. Time to go off and make some dinner. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. See you next time.